It's always interesting to hear what the different sizes of municipalities and how they feel about the proposed legislation, and then what's going on in their region. And that's one of the important things about us going around the province and hearing from different corners of the province about what's important to them so we stay connected with our members. Of course, the biggest thing, I think, or one of the biggest things, I think, is the changes to the police funding model, and the increase that'll be coming to those under 5,000 or the MDs and counties, and hearing some feedback from them, concerns about level of service, what's going right, what isn't going so well. So I think that was one of my big takeaways.
Welcome to Municipal Affairs. Summer in Alberta means a few things: the smell of barbecues, wafting through neighborhoods, the unmistakable energy of Stampede season, and of course, the open road, calling us for that classic Canadian summer tradition, the road trip. And that's exactly what Alberta Municipalities has been doing over the last few months. From Picture Butte to Drumheller to Devon, municipal leaders have been gathering to delve deeply into the issues shaping lives in our communities, not just from a local perspective, but from a regional and provincial perspective. Now, these stops have hosted conversations about the Water Act, the future of communities, property taxation, and the all important topic of police governance and funding. But these aren't just casual summer chats. These meetings are the final major caucus gatherings of municipal leaders before Alberta's upcoming municipal elections this October, marking the last leg of the 2021-2025 council mandate. And today we sit down with Alberta Municipalities President Tyler Gandam. Just days after the final regional gathering, we'll hear what's top of mind for local leaders, how they're preparing for the transition ahead, and what advice he has for anyone thinking about putting their name forward in this coming municipal election season. So stick with us. This is Municipal Affairs. Tyler, thank you so much for sitting down with me and chatting about the most recent Alberta Municipalities road trip, where you went off to Picture Butte, Alberta, Devon, Alberta, and Drumheller, and virtually in Peace River. From Alberta Municipalities' perspective, what was the importance of these gatherings in June?
Like anything, it's making sure we get back together and connected with our members after the spring sitting with the provincial government, hearing about and talking about the new legislation that's been proposed or passed, and just connecting. We do a great job of networking with one another, and it's always great to be face to face with other municipally elected people who are either going through some wonderful things that they can share, or some not so wonderful things that they want to commiserate about, and have a thoughtful ear for them.
So, what was the consensus taking away from the four MLC caucus meetings that you, as the Royal U, Alberta Municipalities held? Was there something that you took away from what your members were telling you?
Again, it's always interesting to hear what the different sizes of municipalities and how they feel about the proposed legislation, and then what's going on in their region. And that's one of the important things about us going around the province and hearing from different corners of the province about what's important to them so we stay connected with our members. Of course, the biggest thing, I think, or one of the biggest things, I think, is the changes to the police funding model, and the increase that'll be coming to those under 5,000 or the MDs and counties, and hearing some feedback from them, concerns about level of service, what's going right, what isn't going so well. So I think that was one of my big takeaways, is that impact and how it's going to affect budget 2026.
We often hear that municipalities are, and I'm going to quote this, and I apologize for any municipal leader who's watching this or listening to this. I feel like about to get some very strongly worded emails that municipalities are the creatures of the province. While policing is traditionally a federal issue, especially when it comes to funding with RCMP, why is it important for Alberta municipalities to talk about that issue at these regional meetings? Because traditionally it would have been a federal issue. So wouldn't FCM take that upon themselves? Why is it important for Alberta municipalities to do it?
No, the way that the changes to the police funding model have had the impact on those smaller municipalities or those smaller communities. So they had gone from not paying anything directly to policing up to 30%. There's a whole range of how much they are now paying for policing. The way that the province rolled it out, saying that there would be more boots on the ground and they would see an increase to the level of service, which was never the case. And so hearing the feedback from those municipalities on why they were sold a bill of goods maybe that they aren't receiving. Fast forward 5 years to the end of the police funding model in its first stage, because it was frozen for a year. Now hearing what that increase is going to be for the next year. So municipalities pay for policing. That's just the way that it is. And so with cities over 15,000, they pay 90% of the policing in their community. Cities under 15,000 to 5,000 pay 70%. And historically, municipalities under 5,000 weren't paying anything. And then when this police funding model took effect, they then had a bill coming in for policing, which is going to increase next year. And therein lies the problem.
There's been a lot of talk over the last 2 years about municipalities moving away from the RCMP contracts and more to a more municipal police service. We're seeing it unfold in real time in Grand Prairie, Alberta, right now. During these meetings, did you hear from members who are thinking about moving away from RCMP into a more municipal focused police force, or is that idea sort of off the radar when you were talking this summer?
I don't think it's off the radar. Um, I think a lot of people are waiting, including the province, sitting back and waiting to see what it looks like and how it unfolds in Grand Prairie. Speaking to members of their council, things seem to be going really well. Sounds like they're going to make the transition earlier than projected and under budget. So that transition cost is going to be a big part in whether a municipality changes to a provincial police service, or sorry, a municipal police service, and see how they were able to recruit members and see how the training goes. And it's one thing to get a police service up and running, but then how does that look like in the community? Is there an increased level in service, decreased, or is it the same? And seeing what that looks like. And I know that Red Deer had done a study a few years ago. Many municipalities have talked about it, but again, it's easy to talk about. But let's put dollars into the equation and what the impact is to the community.
Are your members watching what is unfolding in Grand Prairie as a test sort of pilot project to see how the transition goes for them? Because Grand Prairie is the first in some time to actually transition from a RCMP contract to a provincial police force. And when I spoke to Mayor Clayton and the police chief, the new police chief, they said that they're kind of working on their own, but they're working in conjunction with the province as well to sort of do this transition. Are your members watching to see what happens there before they make the ultimate decision? Are you hearing that, or are they just sort of saying, okay, we're comfortable with the RCMP, so we just want to keep it because it's simple and there's less headache for us?
Yeah, I think a little bit of both. I know that there's probably some that are watching it very closely to see how much it costs and what that transition looks like, and if there's any change to the level of service, which gives them the opportunity for somebody else to go through that trial run. And others, I mean, I don't hear very many complaints about the RCMP in terms of their level of service. And cost wise has gone up considerably over the last few years. There was two major contract negotiations where we saw about a 34% increase to policing, which, like, don't get me wrong, I'm not arguing that the RCMP didn't deserve a raise. It's just that when it took 5 years for that contract to be negotiated, municipalities had a huge back pay bill and then had the increase for the first contract negotiation. And now, after the second one, that was about 9%, it hits municipalities hard, especially at a time where the province's funding to municipalities has decreased over the last 15 years or so. So every little bit helps.
One of the other areas of discussion during the MLC meetings was around the Water Act in the province of Alberta. I was looking at the agenda and it seems like it was very much prominent and what was going to be a big topic of discussion for municipalities, especially as we head into the summer months. What around the Water Act was important for Alberta municipalities to make it a key area of discussion during these MLC meetings?
Just we were looking at, we've always been looking at and working with municipalities on water use. How do we conserve, especially in the south where water is a big issue, and then just getting the feedback from our stakeholders, from our members on how we can help them the best that we can, especially when there's changes to legislation. We will continue to advocate on behalf of our members and making sure that the province hears the concerns that we have and how we can help out and help shape that legislation so that it's in the best interest of our members, so that they understand what kind of impacts they're going to be having.
So, what impacts are we going to have? Because I'm assuming it is a conversation that yourself or people from Alberta municipalities has to have with Minister Schultz of Environment and Protective Areas, if I'm not mistaken, if that's the correct term. I apologize if it's not. What conversations and what ideas are you pitching to the province to say municipalities want to be at the table to ensure that our voices are being heard when you're implementing the Water Act?
We talked about licenses and the interbasin transfers. I think some alternative water sources and water solutions, and making sure that the province is well aware of the impact of some of that license change when it comes to industry, which is also very important, especially here in Alberta, but the impact that it has on municipalities and its water use. So I think it comes down to conservation at the base of it, whether it's industry or whether it's in a municipality, making sure that we're holding on to the resources best we can and utilizing it the most efficient way. And so, like I said, we've been working with the South specifically for quite a while on conservation and water use and new water sources. Are we able to create new reservoirs or basins? How do we change how we're storing water? What we're using for irrigation, um, all of those things were part of the conversation, especially when we were down in Picture Butte.
While you say it is an important issue down in southern Alberta, I can imagine it is a conversation that everywhere is having right now because
Oh, absolutely.
I was talking to a mayor up in northern Alberta just last week, and they were saying that they're having water issues right now. So it's not just a southern Alberta issue, right?
No, it just historically that's where it's been. We've seen the holdback on growth on some of the communities in the south because of their access to water.
One of the topics that I can imagine was talked about a lot, and you and I have talked about a lot, is funding, 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 municipal funding, municipal funding, municipal funding. Any update on what your members are saying, or is it the same old, same old? Municipalities need a little bit more funding from the province to ensure their viability.
Yeah, absolutely. We've talked about the local government fiscal framework, how it's underfunded by about $1 billion on the base funding pot. We're sharing a project that we're just wrapping up right now, and that's where do your tax dollars go? How much you're spending on federal income tax, provincial income tax, and your municipal property tax, and what you're getting for your dollar. And so there's quite a difference in what you would pay a day for your municipal property tax of about say anywhere between $5 and $10. Provincially, you're paying anywhere between $20 and $30, and federally anywhere between $60 and $70 based on your income. So the amount of money that you're putting out in taxes, regardless of where it's going. And I think it's just important that our members and the people who live and work in our communities know how much of their tax dollars go to the municipal infrastructure and services that we provide. And there's just quite not a disparity, but there's quite a difference in what you're paying in taxes between municipal, provincial, and federal.
One thing that I've been hearing from municipal leaders over the last month, and that is because most municipalities have sent out their property tax notices and saying this is how much you owe, is the provincial education portion of property taxes. Was this discussed at any of the MLCs around how we can better communicate with our residents about how the municipality is collecting this funds and giving it back to the province? Because I think there's a disconnect from residents who think that this all this money is just going straight to the municipality, even though some of it, and I'd say majority of it, probably increase this year, is going to the province.
Yeah, there's definitely a conversation. We talked to Premier and we've been talking to government for a number of years about how the province can collect its own school tax requisition or the provincial property tax. And so that should be, I think, the priority for the province is taking that back and collecting it on their own, because it does. As soon as you add it to a bill, people generally aren't looking at it in an itemized way. They're looking at how much did they pay, how much did they pay last year, and what's that increase. And when the school tax requisition went up as much as it did this year, it certainly had an increase to property taxes, and there's rumor that it's going up again next year. So we'll be dealing with the same kind of messaging, not only to the province, but to our members and our community members, residents and business owners.
I know while we were in Edmonton, the premier did muse about the province actually collecting that portion of it moving forward, or there was sort of a subtle hint where the Alberta municipalities asked the province to collect that portion. Have you had any conversations since that spring MLC in Edmonton where the province would say, "Sure, we'll take on another tax collection," or are we still in the same spot we were back in January of this year?
We're in the same spot that we've been in. One of the things that caught us off guard was Premier Smith mentioning that maybe they would collect all of the tax, including property taxes, and then distribute it that way, which was not what our members or anybody had been asking for. So no, there has been no change and not much of a conversation in how the school tax requisition is going to be collected.
One last area I want to talk about, and that is we are entering into election season. While it officially started January 1st, where people could start filing intensive notices to put their names on the ballot, this was the first election where there's going to be some major changes for municipalities. No longer electronic accounting machines, political parties at the two largest cities. We have some changes around election financing, around how municipalities can request criminal code or criminal background checks for potential candidates. What did you hear from municipal leaders, and what did Alberta municipalities hear from municipal leaders about what they're about to go through in the next 3 months as we head into the October 2025 election date?
I think yeah, the changes to the Local Authorities Elections Act definitely caught us a little bit off guard. We had tried to push back on the count tabulators or the counting machines to no success, obviously. And the impact that that's going to have on a municipality for election results, and or how much it's going to cost a municipality to have an election. So there was no offer of financial support for that. The cost you bear is the cost you bear, which is what it's been like for every other election. So the changing in the vote counting machines or not is going to be borne by that municipality. I
Can I
think.
can I challenge you on that for a second? Because from what I
Sure.
understand, and this is from what I'm hearing from the provincial people I'm speaking to, the province would pick up if the municipality had to break any contract with
Yes.
any.
Sorry.
So there is some that they will offer, but they're not offering money to get people to count the votes on election night, right?
Correct. Sorry. You're right. They will. Yeah. They will. They will give you some money if there are any contracts you had to break, or agreements you had in place, contracts you had in place prior to the change in the Local Authorities Election Act. Absolutely. The political parties in Edmonton and Calgary, again, the rest of the province is going to be watching how that plays out. I haven't seen a lot, and of course, I'm not in the big cities where that campaigning is going on. I haven't seen a lot in terms of what political parties are going to bring to the table, but I suspect once summer wraps up, early September, you're going to start to see a real push on the campaigning across the province. The ability to submit your papers at the beginning of the year, I don't think changes how people are going to campaign. It makes for a really, really long year if you're campaigning from January all the way through to just about the end of October. In my past, where I've announced, April, May, and done 6, 7 months of campaigning, it gets awfully tiring, and you seem to run out of juice there once the election looms. So I think you're going to see a few more people announcing. At least I'm hoping to, because there haven't been a lot of people who have announced or submitted their papers for their intent to run. And a big part of that, I think, is how people are being treated as municipally elected people. So I think there's some apprehension to wanting to get themselves into a situation like that, because it's not like you're getting rich from running for running for council. It's often a very I don't want to say thankless, because there are many times that this is probably one of the best jobs a person could ever have. But certainly there's a lot of abuse that elected officials are experiencing now, probably more so than ever. Social media hasn't been kind to a lot of people, and it's been given the opportunity to post anonymously or post under a fake account, which isn't fair at all either.
Was that a much discussed topic at the MLC caucuses, where
Absolutely.
the abuse, and I say abuse, and I don't want to say lightly, but I say abuse in the sense because there's many forms of different types of abuse: the anonymous abuse, the abuse of people showing up at your door, the abuse of code of conduct, well, which you don't have anymore, but the recall legislation abuse that we saw over the first this term. Was it talked about? And what advice do you give prospective candidates who are about to enter into this field? Because, like you just said, many people are thinking, I don't want to do this. I see what Tyler, I see what Kathy Heron, I see what ex-counselor deals with. I don't want to
Yeah.
deal with that. How do you get people involved in municipal election with so much rhetoric being thrown around today?
There's so much more to the role than what you see on social media. There's so much more to the role than what you see on social media. I think that the conversations I get to have, whether it's at the grocery store or at a sporting event, where people are supportive and tell you that there's far more support for you than the 20 or 30 people on social media that love to just find problems, whether there is one or isn't one. I'll be the first to admit we absolutely have social issues in Wetaskiwin, but that doesn't mean that that's what I focus on all the time. It's to try to find those solutions. And I think that given my position and my ability to network and advocate to other orders of government, we have changed what we're doing here in Wetaskiwin. And I've seen that across the province with many of the elected officials who are working tirelessly and getting every opportunity to give their story to a provincial MLA or minister, or federally at an FCM conference. It's fantastic. If people saw the amount of work and the amount of effort that members of council are putting in on their municipality's behalf, I think there'd be a huge change in mindset on how they're treated, because it'd be easy to sit back on the sidelines and armchair quarterback after the game, but get involved and be a part of it. And if you're not wanting to run for council, which is totally fine, attend some of the meetings, the budget deliberations, the public open houses, the RCMP town halls, get involved with things like that. And when you're criticizing something, at least have some information to back it up, not just what you think is going on or what you hear is going on.
I'm going to do a little bit of a side question right now because I mentioned her name and I want to get this on the record. Earlier this month in June, it was announced, and she announced it herself, so I'm not breaking any news, that Mayor of St. Albert, Kathy Heron, would not be standing for re-election in the upcoming October election. She is your predecessor at Alberta Municipalities. I know you and her sat on FCM for some time as well. What was her friendship like, and how do you see your sort of succession from Kathy Heron being like? Because I'm assuming you leaned on her a few times in those early days of your presidency.
When I talked about members of council who work tirelessly on their municipality's behalf, Kathy was absolutely that person. Um, Not only a great friend, but a great mentor and somebody who I absolutely leaned on, not just as a president, but as a mayor, as a member of council. We've had a really strong relationship from long before either one of us were mayors. She was the one who actually encouraged me to run for the board for, at the time, AUMA and now Alberta Municipalities. So yeah, it's been great having her just a phone call or a text message away to be able to lean on her and just get some insight or some advice, or even just to sit back, relax, and have a drink. She's one of the fantastic mayors coming up in this election who are choosing not to run again, which is really unfortunate, not only for Alberta municipalities, but for her city and for other elected officials across the province who also have had the opportunity to bend an ear and get some information from her. So I wish her all the best in whatever she chooses to do next, and we'll still continue to lean on her, and hopefully still connect and get together and go for lunch or supper or whatever the opportunity arises.
This may be the last time you and I chat on municipal affairs before September, because I want to make sure that you have a nice summer and I'm not bothering you in Alberta municipalities a lot. But I have to ask a simple question to end this. We are heading into election season. We are seeing voter apathy at an all-time low in municipal politics. In the last municipal election, I think it was at the lowest it had ever been in the province of Alberta. And yet again, there were some external circumstances with that around COVID-19. But why? What's your message to voters? What's your message to residents who should be getting involved this election season to shape better municipalities for the 2025-2029 mandate that they're about to elect?
I think it's really important for those running for the positions to get the community involved. Give them a reason to want to talk to you, or give them the opportunity to want to talk to you, and make sure that when you're sharing the information, when you're talking about what it is that you're bringing to the table for the next few 4 years, get them excited about it. Talk to them. Have some real conversations about why they are wanting to do this in the community. Most times, a person who's running for council is somebody who's volunteered or been engaged or somehow involved in the community, whether it was from youth sports or putting on events or service clubs. These are the people who have a real love for the community already and are looking to be a part of how that community looks in the future. So I think as somebody who has gone through elections before, trying to get more people engaged and involved and care about what it is in the community. And it's unfortunate because lots of times the low voter turnout is because people are happy where they live and don't think that it's important that who's shaping or making those policies is going to matter much, but it truly does. We're the closest government to the people. We're the ones you see at the grocery store, at the restaurant, and opening up that communication to begin with, I think will help you over the next 4 years.
President Gandam, I want to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Always a pleasure to sit down with you. We will probably be chatting in September when we start launching our roundtable discussions around each individual size of municipalities, whether it be summer villages, towns, or cities, because we have a lot to discuss as we head into this election season. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for sitting down and doing this.
Chris, thank you so much. And the work that you do for municipalities is amazing. As always, thank you for giving us a voice.
Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Municipal Affairs. Now, we hope you've enjoyed today's conversation and gained some valuable insights. To learn more about the communities and the people that we feature here on this show and our sister shows, visit us online at crossborderinterviews.ca. Also, to never miss an upcoming episode, be sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platforms or by visiting us on YouTube at Cross Border Network. Now, this show couldn't happen without your support. So if you can, share this episode with your friends, your family, and yes, even your community, and help keep the conversation going. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and we'll be back with another episode of Municipal Affairs next week. Till then, everyone.